Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today at the Your Overseas Home webinar, Buying in Cyprus After the Pandemic and Post-Brexit. My name is Christopher Nye, and I'm the editor at Property Guides. As a business, we've been helping customers buy abroad safely for over 10 years now, and we provide buying guides, area guides, news, properties in Cyprus, and all sorts of other resources to connect you directly with the experts to support you with your purchase. We also have our telephone team who can give you help over the phone and contacts in Cyprus. So just pop over to the Property Guides website for any help with that. Now, it's great to have so many of you here today. With the easing of restrictions, we can now just pop on a plane and buy a property in Cyprus. But what will we find there? What's changed since the pandemic and the end of the Brexit transition period? Now, Cyprus, over its long history, has seen far worse problems than COVID and Brexit, of course, but we still like to know what's going on now. So today's session, Buying in Cyprus After the Pandemic and Post-Brexit, I am joined by Eleni Philippou from Polycarpus Philippou and Associates, where she is advocate and managing partner. We're just going to do this as a Q&A. There's no presentation as such. But I do want to make you aware that after our own few questions, there's plenty of opportunity for you to type your questions in the box at the bottom of the window, and I will put those to Eleni as we go along. So now, Eleni, hi, welcome.
Hi, nice to see everyone.
So Cyprus got off fairly lightly, from the pandemic in global terms. I guess that's down to good management. But how has the pandemic affected the Cyprus property market, prices, and anything else like that?
Thank you, Chris. Well, it does help that we are an island, so people can't. I mean, come in and out so easily. So I think it was good management that they closed off the airports initially. The government, and that sort of controlled the situation quite a bit. Now, in fact, the property market hasn't actually been affected that much, as in we haven't seen a drop in property prices at all. It was more of a stabilization. So the prices, I would say, have stayed the same, and they've not gone down. I believe that by next year, property prices will start to rise. Because we're seeing the same with tourism. The expectations as to the rise of tourism are very, 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 very high. So
it's not just like the rest of the world, really. We thought the property markets would fall, but actually they've stayed.
No, they've
gone way up. Certainly in the UK.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, what? Just run us through the basic travel rules. Now to get there, but also what will look different when you're there, because I think the UK is the only one that's got rid of almost all restrictions, isn't it? In Cyprus there's still some.
Yes. So although most of the restrictions have gone, traveling to Cyprus, obviously somebody has to make sure, because pandemic restrictions tend to change every couple of weeks depending on the global situation, let's say. So always check the website. Cyprus has a specific website allocated for flying into the island now because of the pandemic, and you need to previously obtain what we call a flight pass. So at least 72 hours before your flight, you need to go onto this website and obtain your flight pass. You will definitely need to still have your COVID test and all of that. But I hear from clients who've been coming and going in the last couple of months that traveling is actually, it's been easier than they had expected, and airports are, quite well managed when it comes to queuing up and dealing with, luggage and all of that. So It's not a frightful experience, as a lot of people might be thinking. It's actually quite relaxed these days.
Okay, and when you're there, you still have to wear masks and everything, but everything's working as normal, basically.
Things have relaxed actually quite a bit, because the weather is still very, very good. So it's more or less like summertime still. So you're still able to sit outside. So you don't really get the feeling of pandemic. Oh my God, everyone's wearing masks and everything. It's more relaxed these days.
Great. Okay. Well, we may get some more questions on the post-pandemic world, but let's move on to the post-Brexit world.
Yes.
Now, the first question everyone wants to know is: if I buy a property in Cyprus, can I just live there full time for as long as I want?
Aha. We do get this question quite a lot these days. Now, we're not going to be talking about the people who managed to get themselves registered here before Brexit. So we're talking about people who are coming out here now, post-Brexit. And, you know, the situation really depends on whether the persons who want to move out are retired and they plan on moving over to Cyprus and working, or whether they plan on just, you know, applying for residency and just living here, but they've got funds of their own to support themselves. Now, initially, I think what we need to say is that you can travel to Cyprus. You do not need a visa, and you're good as soon as you arrive. You're good for about 90 days. So no need to have a visa and nothing to worry about for 90 days. After which, if you want to stay in Cyprus, you need to apply either for what we call a temporary residency permit, also commonly known as a pink slip, or whether they plan on a more permanent establishment, and then you need to go for a permanent residency application. Now, again, there are different types of permanent residency applications. If someone is planning on working, obviously post-Brexit, you're no longer considered EU citizens, and therefore you would need to apply for work permit. That's quite a lengthy process. We're not going to go into that. If you're not planning on working, however, there are two very popular permanent residency procedures which can be done. One is the regular permanent residency under what we call Category F, and then you've got a fast track procedure as well, which is obviously, judging by its name, it's a faster route to permanent residency, but that's connected to purchasing a brand new property over 300,000 euros worth. So you can stay, to just answer your question very briefly, you can stay in Cyprus permanently, and which kind of application you go for will depend on your individual circumstances and how you want to tackle it.
Okay, fantastic. Now, Cyprus is not in the Schengen area, so there's slightly different rules, aren't there? Because if you want to go and live in France for 90 days, then you have to then get out of the Schengen area for the next 90 days. But with Cyprus not being in the Schengen area, it's a little bit different.
Cyprus has signed up to join the Schengen area, the Schengen zone, but we don't know yet when that's going to happen. So okay, there is a sort of Schengen kind of an arrangement in place already, although Cyprus is not a Schengen country.
Okay.
So the 90-day rule applies to Cyprus as well. So you come into Cyprus, you have 90 days for every 180 days of the year. So then you have to leave unless you've made arrangements, for example, to get yourself a temporary residence permit.
Okay.
So if you've come here, you've come to to Cyprus, and you think that your stay is going to exceed the 90 days, then we need to apply for a temporary residence permit to cover you.
Okay.
But,
okay. Sorry. Great. But you won't necessarily have have to come back to the UK. You could go to another country, but
Yes.
but those rules will depend on other
Yes,
countries, so it gets a
exactly.
bit complicated. So the best thing is just to focus on the 90 days.
Exactly.
Okay, now, what about? Can you tell me a bit about the process of? We want to move there full time. Definitely, we're selling up in the UK and we're coming there. What do we do next? Do we buy the property first, or do we get the visa first, or what would you suggest?
First, you contact us.
Okay, yes.
That's the first point.
Always contact the lawyer first.
Exactly. We can actually put you in the right direction with all kinds of procedures and all of that, because a lot of people, they get stressed. So they don't know what to do first. They don't know where to go for registration. We can actually give you information about everything, about the purchase process if you're looking at buying property, getting registered with the authorities. We can also assist with the opening of a personal bank account, registration with the authorities, and all of that. So it's a little bit like a, one-stop shop kind of thing, for anything to do with your relocation to Cyprus. So when it comes to buying property, however, I would say don't pay anything, don't do anything until we've checked it, until a little bit, even as a preliminary stage, a little bit of due diligence has been done on the property. So
Okay.
contact the lawyer first.
Yes. Okay. Brilliant. Now we'll come on to the basics of the buying process a bit later, but we've got lots and lots of questions about Brexit and the post Brexit world. So I'm just going to read these out. One from John: what's the minimum price for buying a property to retire to and gain citizenship?
Right. Okay. Citizenship is a different subject altogether. It's a different kettle of fish. Okay. So if you're talking about buying property and obtaining residency, because that's the first step, obtaining residency, and then there is a route to citizenship via residency. Okay. There is no minimum price. So you could potentially buy a small apartment, let's say for 60,000 euros, and you can still apply for permanent residency, right? The key is to be able to show that you have sufficient funds coming to you from abroad to be able to maintain and support yourself and your spouse and whoever else is moving with you, so that you're basically proving to the authorities that you do not intend to ask for money from the government. You're not going to be asking for benefits and things like that.
And how much is that likely to be?
Well, that's a tricky question. So, for example, and it's at the discretion of the authorities. So, you see, if you're going to buy something small, like let's say a 60,000 euro apartment, the more funds you can show in your bank account in the UK and your pensions, etc., the better it will be for the authorities when they're considering your case, because it's not a fixed, there's no set of fixed rules as in, oh, you've got to have at least, let's say 50,000 in the bank. There's no fixed fee. So you need to show that you've got approximately 9,000 euro per year coming in for each of the person, let's say if we're talking about a couple.
Okay.
But at the same time, you need to show that you've got sufficient funds, like deposits in your accounts in the UK or into your bank account in Cyprus, to show that, you've got sufficient funds to support yourself and you're going to be comfortable and you're not going to be asking for benefits.
And who does that? Who does that sort of negotiation? If you say, well, I've got 100,000 in this account, I mean, and I've got an income of 10,000 euros, who sort of argues with the authorities and says, oh, come on, that's enough?
We do.
Sorry?
We do.
You do. Fine. Okay, great. Excellent.
So basically, What we do is we collect the information from the clients at the beginning so that we can actually present a whole application to the authorities, including all the proof that we need to supply to the authorities with the application. And therefore we are trying to, this way we are eliminating delays and situations where things could be complicated. So we're trying to present it very nicely to the authorities as a bundle of paperwork and proof, and we're usually quite good with that, arguing with the authorities.
Great. Okay. So, now, it's been my experience of our typical reader or viewer in this case that they tend to be very organised.
Yeah.
They have to have been able to afford a holiday home in Cyprus when they reach this sort of age. So they tend to be organised. But if it was me, I'd be thinking, now what could those funds be? Could I rent out my British property? Could my wife still be doing a bit of work in the UK and we could include her income? What is it? Is that kind of negotiation, or does it have to be a regular pension from an annuity kind of thing? Or
it can be anything, Chris. So, for example, if you have rental income coming in, great. If you have investments, again, it supports your case. If you have a couple of properties in the UK, it shows, even if you don't rent them out, it shows that you have wealth. Therefore, if you need to use funds, you can cash some of your wealth, which may be in other kinds of assets.
Right.
So you don't need to worry. We would actually examine each case individually. So the client would need to basically tell us what their circumstances are like. And then we would tell them what kind of documents we would need to build up our case and the application to the authorities.
Okay. And do you need to do that every year or every other year? Or no?
No. What happens is once we have submitted the application for permanent residency, if we're working with the normal application, it's a little bit slow. So it will take approximately 18 to 24 months for it to be examined. But then once you've got it for about 10 years.
Right. Excellent.
So it's actually a really good thing. Yeah.
Because I know that people moved to France in the past. I've known Australians move to France, and every sort of 2 years they have this nervous trip along to the authorities to see if they can stay in their home. But that's not the case with you.
No, this is because we're talking about the permanent residency.
Right.
With the temporary residency, you do have to renew it every 12 months.
Okay.
So that sort of sounds more like what you're talking about now about France. So that's the temporary residency. But here we actually go with clients to the appointment with the authorities. We're very, very organized, very, very well prepared. We will book our appointment. We will go with the client, meet the client there, go in the meeting with them, sort of hold their hands, let's say, so that there's nothing to stress about, nothing to worry about, because we're with them, every step of the way.
Excellent. Okay. Now, I just wonder whether John was, when he asked about the minimum price, whether he was thinking about the golden visa. So just tell us a little bit about the golden visa.
Okay. So the golden visa is what I referred to earlier as the fast track to permanent residency. Okay. So the fast track permanent residency, there's a prerequisite of purchasing brand new property direct from the builder, from the developer, let's say, and the minimum value for that is 300,000 euros plus VAT. There's VAT payable on new properties in Cyprus, no VAT on resale properties, on used properties. So when it comes to the fast track, it's actually more cut to measure, let's say. There are set rules that have to be followed by the purchaser. So one of them is what we mentioned now, the purchase price. The other one is about showing the source of income, the source of funds, having money in the Cypriot bank account, which has come from abroad, which is 30,000 euros. And the fast track application can cover not only the applicant and his spouse or her spouse, it covers all the children, if they have minor children under the age of 18, and it also covers the parents of the applicant and the in-laws. Although, why would you want to bring your in-laws if you're moving countries? But there you go, you might want to.
Okay, now next question. Now, okay, Nick has asked, what's the cost of the service you provide? So that's one question. There's a question on cost, and he's also asked a question about running an online business from the UK.
Okay.
Let's get to that one afterwards. So let's start with the cost.
I think it might be easier if I deal with the online business first, and then I'll explain, just in case we get.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, if you're employed in the UK and you're paying your national insurance contributions in the UK, but your business is actually online, or your employer is actually in the UK, but you can work remotely.
Yeah.
And you're working from Cyprus, let's say, you're not necessarily working in Cyprus. You're actually working in the UK and paying your NI contributions in the UK. So that's not classed as working in Cyprus. So you're not breaking the law. You're not working here. So you don't actually need a work permit in Cyprus. Provided your UK employer is happy for you to work remotely from wherever, and all your NI contributions are being paid in the UK, you're okay being established in Cyprus, because you're not actually working in Cyprus. You're working in the UK.
So you can stay for longer than 90 days if you're working, subject to getting another visa.
Yes.
Okay, right. Oh, that's
you're not really working in Cyprus.
Okay, sure. Because in some countries you have to get a kind of digital nomad visa, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps I'll move there.
Yeah.
In that case.
Let's talk about fees a little bit.
Sure.
Now, as a firm, we're very strong believers in transparency. Transparency generally in processes, but also in fees. We do realize how important it is for people to know exactly what they're budgeting for. Everything is unknown. And one of the things that gives people sleepless nights is, oh my God, am I being charged by the hour? Am I going to end up with a huge bill for legal fees for whatever it is that I've instructed the lawyers over there to do? So because we understand that and we appreciate it, and we don't want people to stress, we're here to take the stress away from the relocation, from the purchase of the property abroad. So one of the first things we do is provide clients with overall estimated budgets for the work that we're going to carry out before we actually start carrying it out. So if let's say the work is, let's say, applying for a temporary residence permit, our immigration department will actually quote you for this. We will quote the legal fees and also give you an overall estimation of what we believe your real expenses are likely to be. So you've got a budget to work to. So right, okay, my immigration permission is going to cost me round about X. So you can budget. We don't like surprises. Most people don't like surprises when it comes to paying out money. Now, we try and do this with every bit of work that we will do for you. So if it's your purchase of property, if it's your immigration permissions, if it's your registration for, let's say, the Inland Revenue, if you're planning on paying your taxes here or things like that, we will quote you from the beginning. You will have to accept our fees by sending us a quick email to say, yes, I'm happy for you to proceed, and we will actually carry out the work for you. So shall I talk a little bit specifically about the purchase of property?
Yes, please.
Right. Okay. So as a general guide, people should expect to pay round about the 1% of the purchase price for legal fees. However, if the purchase, let's say, is for 2 million or 3 million, or if the purchase is, for 50,000 euros, when the purchase price is very low or the purchase price is very high, there could be differences in the fees. So like I said before, we always quote from the beginning. Expect the 1% more or less, but you will get a quote and you will know from day one exactly what your fees are going to be and what these include.
Okay. But sorry, just nailing you down to the visa, the residency application.
Yes.
Married couple in the UK buying want to get that organised. What should they be budgeting for?
For the temporary residence visa?
Yes.
Or the permanent residency?
Both, either.
Aha. You see, the first thing that anyone's going to have to do if they're planning on staying here long term, and to enable them to, to decide what they're doing and to figure things out, the first thing we always have to do is the temporary residence permit.
Yeah.
So we have to apply for that, which is going to give us more time than the 90 days that we have initially. So you see, in 90 days, that's hardly enough time for people usually to go around, view properties, decide what they want to do, and that's too much pressure.
Yeah.
So I usually say to people, don't put yourself in a very difficult situation, because when you're buying property and you're relocating, you need to be sure of what you're doing. Don't rush it. Yeah. So once they arrive here, before the 90 days even expire, I advise people to book the appointment for the temporary residency application. We put that in, and that gives us another 12 months. So you have your 3 months initially, and then you've got another 12. So that gives you enough time and enough space, let's say, stress-free, to be able to sort out your property purchase, your opening of the bank account, your transfer of funds into your bank account, and all of the logistics, let's say, of that happening. Now, you should expect to pay roughly about 500 euros per couple for your for the legal fees for your temporary residency application. Now, if your family situation is a bit more complicated and there's more than two of you, there's more people, our quote might be slightly different to account for the number of persons or the complications, but you should expect round about that.
Okay, that sounds very, very, very reasonable. I took 2 dogs to France this summer, and I paid about the same amount just for the animal health certificate. So I think we all got used to paying a little bit more. That seems very, very reasonable. Now, what is we've had one from Nick who's asked, what is the rate of VAT when buying a new property?
19%.
19, and it's not tiered, it's just 19%.
Hang on. There's a but. But. Right. So the standard VAT rate is 19%. However, there is something called a VAT reduction, and that works a bit like a government subsidy, like a government grant, and that reduces your VAT on the new property to 5%. However, you have to basically purchase the property, sign contracts for it, and then you proceed to apply for the VAT reduction. When the VAT reduction is approved, you get the certificate, which then enables the seller, the developer, builder, etc., to recalculate any amounts that you've paid them with 19% VAT. They credit the difference to you, and then the rest of the payments you have to make to your builder will be at the reduced VAT rate of 5%. Now, there are certain restrictions. Once you've received this 5% VAT subsidy, you've got to keep the property for 10 years. If you sell the property before the 10 years expire, you have to return an amount of the subsidy back to the government. So for the number of years that let's say you kept the property for only 5 years and not 10, So for the remaining 5 years, you have to return the 14% VAT difference to the authorities. Make sense? Now, you are then, once you've sold that property, and should you buy a second brand new property, you can reapply and get a VAT reduction on that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Oh, that's okay. Now, we've had we always get lots of questions about Irish people, not just Irish people, but people who might be married to someone who has an Irish grandparent. So it gets complicated. So firstly, if you've got an Irish passport,
you have an Irish passport, you're an EU citizen, and therefore you have no restrictions.
Suppose you're married to an Irish citizen.
If you're married to an Irish citizen, then you get to move out here, and then you get registered as the spouse of an EU citizen, and then it's a slightly different process, but you have the same rights as the EU citizen. So you're lucky.
Excellent. Okay, good. That's solved that one.
Yeah.
We've got some Australian people, but we're going to come back to those because we got one from now.
Australian people are non-EU, so
sorry.
Australians are non-EU.
Yes.
So.
Even I knew that.
Well,
thank you.
The same restrictions apply to them, just like just like
Brilliant.
the Brits.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, we've got a question from Joe. Now, how easy is it to get I'm just going to read the question. How easy is it to get a temporary visa to allow us to work part-time in Cyprus? I know we're not going to talk in depth about work permits.
Work permits are hard, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
It wasn't long ago that the UK was in the EU, and the same rules apply here as they did in the UK up until a year ago, when you needed to employ someone that was from outside the EU. So one of the rules is that the job position needs to have been advertised for a long time. You have to prove that you can't find somebody else from the EU to be able to fulfill the position. It's the employer that makes all the procedures for being able to employ someone from the outside of the EU. Most employers are not happy to do it because it's going to cost them a lot of money and it takes time. So
okay.
It's difficult.
Okay.
It will be difficult.
And if you did it off the book, if you were caught doing it, what?
It's a criminal offence.
Okay.
It's a criminal offence both for the employer and the employee, and the courts are more strict with the employers.
Okay.
Obviously, to try and stop this from happening. So the fines are really hefty. Yeah. And I know of at least one situation where the employer was actually sentenced to prison for 6 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's assume that. Let's move on to health. Just briefly, tell me about if you retire to Cyprus on a permanent residency, and you what happens about healthcare? Do you have to have private health insurance, or what?
Okay, so initially, obviously, most people will not have the permanent residency directly. So initially, you have to apply for your temporary residency. Yeah. As part of your temporary residency, you need to have health insurance. It's a specific cover, which basically most insurance companies offer for immigration purposes. It's not a complicated health insurance. It's one that also covers the repatriation in the event of death, which usually upsets people, but it's the standard format that the authorities actually require. Now, once you've obtained your permanent residency, you can even register for the health services here. But I do understand that it will take time, and you need to obtain forms from the UK, basically to be able to be registered with the health system here. There is, even before we joined the EU, the UK and Cyprus had agreements in place with regards to people who had retired. So retirees have more benefits, let's say, than people who are not retired, because because of this agreement between the UK and Cyprus, whereby the UK will actually transfer some of the health benefits for those retirees to the Cypriot government. So you can actually register as a retired person with the hospitals here, and then you do get the same benefits. I understand it's an S1 form from the UK.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Okay,
yeah,
brilliant.
Be the E111.
Right.
I think in the old days.
Sorry?
In the old days, I think it was the E111.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. Now, I've since had a chance to read the question from Australia, and it does actually apply to British people as well. It's from Nicholas, and with a very Greek sounding surname. So the clue is there. My mum, he lives in Sydney. My mum and dad are Greek Cypriots. Mum was born in Cyprus. I have dual citizenship with the UK, presumably that's UK and Cypriot, but want to apply for a Cypriot passport. Can I do that with my mother's birth certificate?
Absolutely. It's a different route. It's not the citizenship route that anybody else would apply for that hasn't got Cypriot roots. You can apply. We can assist you with this, it's not a very lengthy process, let's say, but as with anything with the Cypriot authorities, it does take time, but it's not the same as the citizenship route for anyone else. It's faster.
Muted. Right. Sorry. Now, another question. I think it's related to the so permanent residency. Just to nail this down, can you do any work on that?
No.
No. Okay, fine.
With the permanent residency, you do not have any employment rights.
Okay, got it.
You have rights to stay here, but no employment.
But you could be paid from the UK by a UK company doing work. Okay, good. I'm glad we nailed that one down.
But you pay your taxes in the UK.
Sorry?
You pay your taxes in the UK.
Got it, right. Okay. But if you're, sorry to get off on a tangent, but if you live somewhere for more than 183 days a year, do you not pay tax there?
That's a tax question, Chris.
Okay, so, well, perfect opportunity then to mention that on the 13th of November, we have Your Overseas Home Virtual, which you're going to be at, and you can, and anyone can sign up for that, and we will be having tax advisors there, and then we can get those tax questions on.
Yeah.
So, okay, brilliant. Okay, I'm gonna come straight back to property then.
Yes.
Title deeds.
Yes.
We've had a question about it. Now, when I started writing about this subject 17 years ago, it was all about title deeds. Has that been sorted out? What do we need to know about title deeds?
That's a very, very general question. Now,
I'll ask a specific question.
Yes.
It's from Andy. Am I right to assume you should only purchase properties that have full title deeds? There seem to be different descriptions on advertised properties.
Right. Yes and no. Okay, so you shouldn't only be looking at properties that have a title deed, but you should be aware that right. Okay, it's complicated. Right. Let me try and simplify it as much as possible.
Okay.
Now, we're here to do all the due diligence searches for any property that you're interested in. Now, there is a chance, because there's a delay with the land registry issuing new title deeds to new properties. There's a gap between when the property is actually finished until the actual issuing of the title deed for it. You could potentially find a property that you like, and it's advertised as no title deed for it, but it could be that the title deed is just in the pipeline, and it's simply a matter that it just hasn't been issued yet. Or it could also be that a property doesn't have a title deed, but it's actually a problematic property. So what you need to be aware of is that there are some properties which will have their title deed, and the title deed will either be registered in the name of the seller or it's pending the registration to the seller. Okay, and that's fine. And that there are other properties which are also fine to purchase, but the title deed is in the pipeline. There are, however, other properties that the title deed for them is not yet available and they are problematic. And that's where we come in. We basically sort out all of this big mess. We look at the facts, we look at the information about the property, we do our due diligence searches so we can tell you, yes, this property is okay for you to purchase, or this property has 1, 2, 3, 4 different problems with it, which we cannot overcome. So this is our job, to actually be able to give you all the facts and all the information so that you proceed with your property purchase with your eyes wide open, that there are no problems and there are no risks to your investment. Unless, of course, you do want to buy a problematic property, and that's a different subject.
Okay, question from Carol. We're back to residency, temporary residence permit.
Yes.
What documents do you need to bring when applying for a 12-month temporary residence permit for a retired couple?
Well, I'm going to say to Carol, if she would like to send us an email, and then we will give her a full list of all the documents for the residency application, if that's okay. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure it won't apply to anyone here. But what about criminal records? What sort of restrictions are there? Do you have to have, for example, a letter of good standing or something from the police or anything like that?
For applying for the permanent residency, yes, you do.
Okay.
Okay. But for the temporary residency, you don't.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Now, there's also, with regards to convictions and clean criminal record certificates from the UK, I understand that because there are people who may have had in the past a criminal conviction, and sometimes those aren't actually shown. If it's been a very long time since the conviction, it might not actually come up on the certificate if they want to request one. So instead of stressing about it, I would say apply, and they can apply in the UK online to receive their certificate, to see what it says, and because sometimes it's not a big problem.
Okay.
People stress about it.
No. Okay. Sure. Now, last question, because we've almost run out of time. Let's just a basic one. Timescales. If I want to be in my lovely home in Cyprus by the summer, or perhaps by the spring, how long is the legal process going to take from making an offer to actually getting the keys?
Well, how long's a piece of string? Right. I'm going to assume that all the funds are available.
Yeah.
That you're a cash buyer, Chris. You've got all your money. You've sold your property in the UK. You've got all the money sitting in the bank.
Yep.
And you've seen your property. You've found the property, and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to include any time for you to be searching for the right property and all of that.
No.
Now, provided you found the property, and we've done the background research and all the due diligence searches show that it's good to go, you can actually complete the transaction. We aim to complete as fast as possible, and this usually happens between 30 and 40 days from the signing of contracts.
Okay. Sorry, just
30 to 40 days from the signing of contracts.
Okay, well that's not bad, is it? And now, how about the residency application? And
can I just before I move on to just to say, if people are looking at buying something and they haven't decided yet on what kind of property, or they're planning on coming out here to for an inspection trip or to view properties, I would say contact us first, because something that does take a little bit of time to get organized is collecting your personal information from the UK.
Right.
So if you are going to be planning a trip, contact us before you come out, so we can give you a list of the documents that you're likely to need to obtain from the UK. And because bringing those documents with you will make any property purchase faster. We can also deal with the opening, let's say, of a bank account as well while you're here. And it takes away some of the stress for when you've actually found a property that you like, because you've dealt with some of the niggly bits, which is like, your proof of identity, your proof of address, and, asking you for copies of your marriage certificate and utility bills and all of that. And then you can actually focus on your property purchase, your residency, and that's all that.
Excellent. Okay. Well, that kind of finishes off our time. I imagine that you do everything online these days, but where is your office if people are coming out?
Most of the things and the information can be collected online.
Okay.
We do send people information, FAQs, frequently asked questions, that is with regards to the different areas of practice. So if they are going for, let's say, the property purchase, we'll send them information about that. Our onboarding process is also done online. So again, that's quite easy to do, and it can be done before they actually arrive. Okay. And then, although we cover the whole of Cyprus, we have 2 offices, one in Nicosia, and the head office is based in Paphos.
Okay.
And we can assist with island-wide purchases.
Excellent. Well, you've given us really clear and beautiful answers. So thank you very much, Eleni. Just as a reminder, you will be at your Overseas Home virtual. Absolutely. On the 13th of November. Yes. We hope to see everybody else there. We'll be having there'll be sort of virtual booths. It's all quite good fun, actually.
It's all virtual.
Yes, it's all virtual, but you can go to a booth and you pick some properties and you can chat with the agent and all that. We will be sending everyone who was registered today your contact details, but also the actual present. Just a repeat of this, so you can watch it again. Yeah. And you can contact Eleni with your own questions. I hope you will. And, well, thank you again. And we'll see you on the 13th of November.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone.
Bye.